Hello, everyone, and welcome to another conversation. And today I have a pleasure of speaking with Sophie Rey, who's an artist, a yoga teacher, and training to be a trauma-informed somatic teacher and coach for women. So welcome, Sophie.
Hi, Aneta. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for taking time to speak with me. It's so lovely to have you here on the podcast. And, I've known you for quite a while, quite a few years now. And, I always think about how it was such a coincidence of us really connecting together. And, you posted something in a Facebook group and I kind of replied, and then we talked, and then we've been in contact ever since. And it's been such a privilege to be part of your journey, for us to connecting and being together. And I particularly am so happy to be speaking with you because you bring this very unique approach, to your work, to really blending together creativity, to blend together art, somatics, yoga. There's very much approach to being and creating, and I absolutely love it. And so, I'd love to hear, and for everybody else, I'd love for you to share with us maybe a little bit about your story. Like, how did you end up doing what you're doing right now?
Yeah. So I guess, the first thing is that I've been an artist all my life. That is kind of my initial thing. I went to uni, I did illustration, and I've worked as an illustrator since 2010. But that has kind of changed and developed over time. And I don't always call myself an illustrator. I would say illustrator, artist, mixed media. I like to interchange. And now I include it in the work that I do through yoga and somatics. And I started going to yoga with my mom back in 2012. And I just loved it, like you have that feeling, don't you, after your first class of what was that? But wow, something really felt, something felt good there. And it was a real moment of connecting with my body because I've spent years being quite disconnected from my body throughout uni. So that was a real moment of like, oh, I can be in my body. It's not a bad place to be. And I was doing yoga for a few years and I went and did a foundation course just to learn a little bit more about it because I knew that it wasn't just a physical practice. There was so much more to it. And people had said to me, oh, you should be a yoga teacher. And I was like, I don't really know what that means, And there wasn't that much yoga around at that time, not as much as there is now. And I hadn't been doing it for that long. So I just wanted to learn more. So I did a course in London and I was like, wow, that was where I thought, okay, it was the spiritual side of it and mixed in with the physical and I just wanted to learn more about it. So I decided to do my yoga teacher training and I never thought that I would actually teach people because I was very shy. I say shy, introverted, and I claim those. Like I'm not, I don't think that's a bad thing at all, but I've always been quite shy. So for me to stand up in front of people and teach a class, it felt quite big. And there were moments in my yoga teacher training, I started in 2017, that I thought, I can't do this. I can't stand up in front of people. But I used the practices of yoga to help me through those feelings. And I just knew that it was what I wanted to do. And so I had to do it. I just knew something in me felt like this is what you're supposed to be doing. And I decided on my teacher training, I decided that I wanted to teach beginners. People had said it's a really good place to start because you really get to know people, you really get to understand bodies, you really get to understand the complete variation of people in front of you and human makeup. So I set up a beginners class. It was a gentle class. I wanted it to be very slow. And not, I always did flow classes, but I just didn't want that to be what I put out into the world. So I started teaching on a Thursday at 9:45, and the people that walked through the door were people in their 60s, somebody with fibromyalgia, somebody who was really badly suffering with depression. So I had, and it was only a small group, I had about 6 people in the room, so it was nice and small. And that was kind of that initial moment of like, these are the people that I really like to support and really want to support, and I enjoy figuring out ways of, it's not you have to fit the pose, it's how can I adapt it and give an option for you so that you can experience the benefits of it without having to force yourself into it. So I really enjoyed it's the creative thinking, it's the problem solving of how do I guide this selection of people through this sequence that I've put together in the different ways that they are built up. Does that make sense?
Yes, completely. And I really love it. I love it how intuitively, how you connected with it, and what kind of people the universe offered you and how you responded to it. It's really lovely. Yeah. So is that the kind of client groups that you've been teaching?
Yeah, so since then, I guess because my classes are in the daytime, the majority of people that I was getting at that point when I qualified, they were retirees or stay-at-home mums, or but the majority of the people, were 60 plus, and I just love working with them. I just really found my little plan. And so I've been doing that ever since, and it has evolved over time. They are 60 plus, so I teach gentle somatic yoga for older adults. And I have worked with people with fibromyalgia, with people going through breast cancer recovery, people with hip replacements, knee problems, lots of different things. And my kind of aim is to help them to regain that trust and that sense of safety and stability. So it's a lot of functional movement, mobility, strength building, appreciation for your body, even when it doesn't feel like when your body's against you. It's how can I appreciate my body? And that's something that I've learned myself over the years. So it's going from my own experiences. I haven't experienced anything like what they've experienced, but I try and put myself in their shoes of like, what do I think that they feel? How do I think that they can't get that sentence out?
That's okay.
What would they? How would I respond if I was them in their body? So I really try and think what would help. And then we try things out. And that's what I love about somatics. And I started doing somatics in 2020. I think it was during lockdown. the words started popping up, and I started doing somatic practices online, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, this is going to really help the people that I work with to release that chronic tension and pain, and to help people to connect and gain that trust in their body.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, because it's such a inclusive practice, isn't it? Such an accessible, inclusive practice, where a lot of kind of yoga practices, more traditional yoga poses and yoga movements, might be inaccessible to people who are maybe working, living with fatigue, or living with some kind of injuries, or have mobility problems. Somatics is much gentler, much more
Yeah,
accessible, much more intuitive, really.
yeah. And that's what I love. I love that intuitive movement and an approach to the practice. And I never say, oh, it's inclusive and accessible. Those aren't really words that I tend to use. I do use them because they are, but that's not how I market it. But it is, yeah, that is what I do aim. I want it to be a safe space for people, and I can't, it doesn't mean that I can support everyone, but it's, come in, have a go, let's see what we can do, let's work together, offering a one-to-one maybe if they need a little bit more personal support. And if I'm not for them, that's fine, and if they need something else, I will refer them on. And, that's a good thing about in this industry, in the wellbeing industry, especially where I live, you just know lots of different practitioners. So it's easy to refer someone to someone else. So referring to a physio, for example, and that has really helped some of my clients, just having that extra thing that they might need. So it's not my class will fix everything, because that's not how it works. But yeah, having that understanding that it sometimes takes other things, and me having that knowledge of what that might be. Yeah.
Yeah. Very mindful and thoughtful and compassionate approach.
Yeah.
And collaborative with other practitioners,
Yeah.
because really we can't be masters of everything. Like, we can be really good at certain things, and we might specialize in certain things, but as you just said, it's like your class, what you offer is not everything. There are other approaches, and when it's focused more on the client or on the student rather than the modality or the practitioner,
Yeah.
it's very much more needs led.
Yeah. And with the trauma informed approach as well, I can't remember when it was that I started bringing that in, but I think definitely before we started working together, I didn't really use that word, or that I didn't say trauma informed, because I didn't know that that was a thing. But I have always been quite conscious of, where are my boundaries? What can I and can't I do? The amount of times you get asked, oh, I've got this niggle, what do you think it is? Or like, this hurts, can I do this? And it's like, I don't know, because I'm not a physio and I don't have x-ray vision. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Take it slow, try things out, or go and see a physio first, let them assess you, and then, maybe you come back to me and we work together. And yeah, so I've always been very conscious that I can't do it all, and I don't claim to.
Very safe approach. Very, very
Yeah.
safe approach. So I'm wondering, how, because we were speaking before this podcast, and we were chatting a little bit about you know, how this last year your approach has changed, you know, with the training that you are doing, with the trauma-informed somatic teacher and coach for women certification training, and, you know, bringing, I mean, I really love your approach. You know, it's like there is this when I think about you, I always think this, like, you know, art and creativity and the workshops that you do, you know, the workshops and day retreats where you bring together yoga and yoga nidra and movement and somatics and creativity and art. I think it's just such a wonderful combination. So I wonder, you know, how has your work changed over the last, I don't know, year or year and a half, bringing more of the somatics and really more consciously blending those different modalities or approaches?
Yeah, how has it changed? Just taking my mind back a bit. It's easy sometimes to get to the end of the year and go, "Whew,
Yeah.
where did that go?" But no, I do reflect every month. Uh, haven't done my November reflection yet, but um, it's so, how to say it? Bringing in, throughout the training, I've looked at the things that I really resonate with and the things that I'm doing myself in my own practices. So that intuitive exploration and that creativity, that playfulness. My work is about supporting people to find that within themselves, their own inner joy and inner playfulness. And, you know, we can get to a point where things are just so serious all the time. And the world is serious and chaotic and scary and all of those things, you know, and we are, like, at the time when the pandemic was happening, I I put my first online workshop, my yoga nidra and art workshop, online, and it was a space to bring people together to just have a little bit of joy and play and connection. And it's, you know, I love watching people who are like, "Oh, I haven't been creative since I was a kid," and they're in their 60s, and then they do it and they're like, "That was amazing." You know, they don't think that they're the best, but that's not what it's about. It's about the process.
Mm.
And using my approach with art, for me, art is it's my safe space, it's my outlet, it's my way of, it's like meditation, and it's really good for processing your emotions and understanding your body, understanding your mind, allowing things to just be a little bit free and loose. You know, there's lots of different benefits to creativity.
Mm.
And those are what I'm trying to share as much as that as I can. And remembering that we are allowed to experience joy and playfulness during the chaotic times and the
Yeah.
challenging times.
Yeah. I love that. I think this is exactly it, isn't it? And we've had conversations before around it, that when you start, you know, doing more of this kind of trauma and trauma recovery or trauma healing stuff, and you focus on being trauma informed, and, you know, it can become very serious and very heavy and very, and, you know, when I think about you and your energy and the playfulness and creativity, there is this little sparkle or a big sparkle of just, you know, looking from a different, joyful, fun experience. And, you know, in a sense, what you just said, you know, we are allowed to feel that, even if the world is chaotic. And, you know, when I think about it from the nervous system point of view, it's very difficult to have creativity and be joyful if you are in a constant state of hyperactivity and hyper alertness, this fight or flight, sympathetic response. And it's impossible to do that when you're in a shutdown or freeze. And so actually, that curiosity, this joyfulness, this orienting towards playfulness and joy can really help us in regulating our nervous system. I mean, what comes to mind is, I remember when I was working in a crisis center, and we had residential crisis center of London, lots of clients coming through, many of them, with very difficult upbringing, in and out of services, in and out of prison, mental health, physical health, so much stuff in there. And when I was holding this space, because I was responsible for creativity as well, like groups and activities, I held all the groups, like 2 groups a day, and then lots of different activities. And I remember, just sitting around a table with guys who were spent, probably half of their life in prison, being very streetwise and, very long-term chaotic substance use, and them taking their, making with stickers Christmas cards and just being really relaxed and doing, and drawing stuff and creating those cards and just having a laugh. And how creativity can create that sense of safety and can shift you into a different way of being, out of your mind, out of this sense of being in constant threat, into just being here, being curious, having a bit of fun, exploring, noticing what's possible, having a laugh, not being perfect, all of those kind of things that come with creativity.
Yeah,
So
no
I wonder,
expectation.
yes, exactly. So I wonder, it's like, what, I wonder what insights your clients share with you when they attend your workshops.
So a lot of them tend to think that they're not creative. That is an overall, that's a theme, really. It's like, oh, I'm not creative, I can't paint. And I do believe that we all have creativity within us. And that I talk about the creative inner child a lot. And that's something that I want to explore more as I go through the training and as I just start to bring things together for future work. And I've had people at the end say that they did feel more connected to their creative inner child, or that they allowed themselves that space to play and just have a go. And realizing that, you don't have to be the best. It's not about that. If you want to learn more, that's great. Okay. There are loads of courses out there to progress with art, but starting at the basics and going back to that childlike play, that, if you think of children, if they're making art and they get told that's rubbish, that moment of, oh, well, I'm not going to do that then because I don't want to be told that I'm rubbish, or I'm not very good at that, so I won't do it.
Yeah.
It's rekindling that in someone, that ability to express yourself, and allow your inner child to make a mess, and find a way to, because the more you play, the more you do uncover your creativity and it boosts your imagination. If you don't do it, your imagination doesn't expand, doesn't widen, and your perspective doesn't broaden either. And I've had people who have come to every single workshop that I've done over the past year, including day retreats. And that very first one, they thought that they weren't very good. They were like, oh, I can't paint. But they kept coming back just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
For that playfulness. And that has really helped them. I think the last time they came, they'd had a really bad night's sleep. They were not in a good place. And they sat down and just immersed themselves in painting with watercolors and felt so much better by the time they left. They were more present. It's, and somebody wise once said, there's no creativity without somatics. I think that was you. And I love that. That really resonated with me. I was like, oh, you're right, because we use our bodies to create. If you're in your head, it's really hard to make art in any sense, because you're overthinking and you're worrying. Yeah, your mind is still working because it's problem solving and it's thinking, where am I going to take this? But actually, that is a felt sense. That is an instinct in you of like, where am I going to go with this? And that takes time to build.
Yeah,
as well.
and that's that curiosity as well, isn't it? That curiosity, and experimentation. Let's try this and see how that works, rather than, oh, it has to look proper and it has to be perfect and it has to be,
Yeah. And that's kind of where I am with my art at the moment. So I still take on commissions and I do illustration commissions, and I still draw, but actually my own art practice is abstract and loose and messy at times, and just let's see where this goes. And I don't sell a lot of my art at the moment. I'm focusing on the somatic side of things and my workshops and classes for older adults. So that's what I'm doing there. But I still come to my art practice to explore, and that helps feed into the work that I'm doing with my day retreats and events. But I mean, I'm enjoying that loose, expressive, no strings attached art.
Gosh, and that's so different from how our society is built, isn't it? Where there is all kind of data and outcomes and results, and it has to be right, and this solution focused on the mind thing of fixing. It's like, let's fix it, let's make it better, let's improve it, let's make it bigger, bolder, and as quickly as possible. I love that. So I wonder, where are you taking your work? Because it's been absolutely amazing seeing you develop this quite unique approach, and from all this, from your experience and your lived experience and your training and your unique point of view, your work with your clients, it's kind of, where are you taking it now?
So the route I'm going down and the work that I'm already doing now is about helping people or supporting people on their journey of reclaiming their own inner joy and finding that inner spark, and maybe and inner child healing as well, that will come into it in a trauma-informed way. And regaining that trust in their bodies. That's kind of a big one that is going to come into it, and that's the work that I do with people one-to-one. I help people to reconnect with their bodies in in whatever way that they are experiencing. So with the coaching, when I officially call myself a coach, that's the kind of work that I want to go down. So supporting people with maybe people that are having body image issues, disordered eating. That will be a route that includes creativity and includes that inner child healing. And yeah, so it's there, it's coming out, but I think that's a future project. That's a but it is happening, it is happening now.
Yeah.
And yeah, allowing people that time to play, and explore and reconnect in a judgment-free space.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I love
hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, completely. I love that. I can feel how my body and soul want that. It's like I want to be held in that kind of space. And, I know that I am quite guilty of getting very serious. Very serious, very, very serious. And then I, go into my workaholic tendencies and get very serious, very serious. And then the joy and the play, it kind of gets left a little bit to the side because there isn't, if I don't consciously create space and time for it, apart from playing obviously with my dog, but if I don't create space for it, if I get too drawn into the work and this kind of seriousness, then I feel it in my body. I start getting a bit more rigid and a bit more
really constricted. And
yes, that's exactly it. Yeah. And even my body starts tensing up then, it's got its own pattern of holding stress and tension, and and I start finding things funny or joyful. And so
I
it's
feel that
very
too.
important part.
I know when I haven't been painting enough or just allowing myself that space to be creative, that is I stop finding things funny as well and get a bit serious and very in my head. So I am doing this all from experience.
And I love it. I'm really looking forward to seeing more how you develop it, going deeper into that inner child work and the somatics and that connection between the felt sense and the body and the creativity. I think it's such a needed work because that's something that we don't have a lot. We don't have a lot of those spaces. We have now, it's changing over the last 20 years. We have got more of the awareness of trauma and trauma-informed and trauma-aware approaches, and the language that we use and the spaces that we provide, and the therapeutic spaces and body-focused stuff. But we still, I think there is this, just like within our society, we've got the body and mind and the soul. We also have got like daily life and creativity. And for so many people, it's treated as a luxury rather than as a necessary part of feeding our soul and our, connection to life itself.
And that's really important for me. So when we look back at the accessibility and inclusive, it's really important for me to be able to offer it to a wide range of people and it not just be a luxury, because that is a big part of the problem. And I don't want to be part of the problem, is it? It's finding a solution. So, looking at different types of funding and how I can bring it into spaces where people don't know how to approach those practices, or there's no, or maybe they can't afford to, or it's going to be really important that I look at those avenues and make sure things are accessible financially.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, getting some funding and making it more accessible, definitely. Yeah. So,
Yes.
Sophie, before we finish, if people are interested in finding more about your work and maybe signing up for some of your online or in person offerings, or even working with you one-to-one, where can they find you?
So you can go to my website, which is www.sophierey, which is REY, yoga.co.uk. I have an Instagram page, which is Sophie Rey yoga _art. And I can't add somatics onto the end of that. So, so at some point that will change. And also I've got a Facebook page as well, which I think is Sophie Rey Yoga. And I've got a free online workshop in January, which is all somatics. So really exciting that it's somatic movement and dance, somatic meditation, and creative flow journaling.
Oh, wow. That sounds lovely.
Yeah. Online.
And people can find it on your website.
It's on my website. It's a free or donation-based offering. And just dipping my toe in a little bit more. And
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sophie. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you for taking time to be here.
Thank you for having me.